getting all of the right clothes for tomorrow. The provincial government in the Western Cape says they're still looking for places for around 7,200 learners. The provincial government there says they want to make sure that all of the affected children are in school within 10 days of the start of the academic year. Bronagh Hammond is the spokesperson for the Western Cape Education Department. Bronagh, good afternoon to you. 7,200 children that you're dealing with at the moment. Are most of them from the Western Cape, or have they moved into the province from another province?
Well, we'll get the final stats after the 10th school day, but a lot of them are from outside the province, specifically our late applications. These are learners that have either moved during the school holidays or relocated to the province and are only applying now. And I think that's what our major challenge now is these late applications. And these late applications, we're seeing that since the 1st of November, we've had 10,666 late applications. So that is very challenging, especially because schools have been closed over this December period where we've had to try and place learners, and we can't have those negotiations with school governing bodies during this period. But thankfully now schools have reopened today, and those discussions are definitely underway at a rapid pace.
You're not the only ones in this position. Gauteng is also looking for, we've just been hearing from Gauteng parents who are also looking for places. This figure of 7,200 for the Western Cape this year, what's that like compared to previous years? Is it roughly the same, more, less?
Yeah, well, if we consider grade 1 and grade 8, which we used to report on in previous years, because that was your entry grades into primary school and high school, we're at the same as we were last year. And as mentioned earlier, the 10th school day is actually very important because we can do a head count of learners and see where there's places at schools, as well as schools can deregister learners that have not arrived. For instance, a learner that has applied from the Eastern Cape and actually has remained in the Eastern Cape, and therefore we have another space available. And that's what we see after the 10th school day. So that's a very important date for us. And we saw last year we could rapidly mop up any learners that needed placement after that 10th school day, and that's what we're expecting now. We want to try and reduce that number significantly in the next 10 days, obviously, with our discussions with schools. But yeah, that 10th school day is important. But then this year has been a bit different because of the Bella Act, and the introduction of grade R as the entry grade into primary school now has placed quite a significant challenge on us. We've got 2,700 grade Rs that we need to still place. Obviously, you know, we need the accommodation, the teachers, the resources. That has been an additional challenge that has been added onto provinces this year. But I think, you know, we are in a good position, even though it sounds quite daunting. I think because of the fact that the schools have been closed and we haven't been able to have those negotiations, those discussions will start happening now.
For grade R classes, because the children are younger, is there a different teacher-child ratio? And does that mean that one class of grade 1s might need, maybe you could have 20 or 30, and therefore it's one teacher per 30 children, arguably? But for grade Rs, is that different? And does that make it harder to accommodate more grade R learners because you need more teachers for them?
Well, for grade R, it's generally 1 to 30, actually, in terms of the Act. But we are, in our primary schools, 1 is to 35, 36, and 1 is to 37 in our high schools. It's also depending on subjects that they're taking. So I think it's even more challenging for our high schools because you've got subject-specific learners, and you got learners taking different subjects, where you got higher enrollments in some subjects and in other subjects. So that's where we find our main challenge in terms of teacher-specific needs in our schools. But yeah, grade R's in terms of the teacher, the practitioners, the employment of those practitioners, and ensuring that every class has that teacher in the first day of school.
One of the big problems for many parents is finding a school that's not only just good enough for their child, but is right for their child. It's got to be close to where they live or where they work. Again, in Gauteng, we've seen disputes about this. We have it in education systems every year. Have you had what sort of number of disputes have you had on that score this year? Has it been roughly the same as usual?
Well, of course, the ministry have received quite a number of appeals, actually. I think it's up to 7,000 appeals, I might be corrected, in terms of the admissions for this year. Look, there is schools of choice. Let's be honest. There's some schools that parents are all vying for. We've got a school here in Cape Town, which is they receive over 4,000 applications for 120 spaces that they've got available, and they cannot admit more. The actual sheer size of the school would not be able to capacitate it. So that is what we are seeing is those schools of demand. And you've got your schools that are academically inclined, they've got subject specific academic focus such as maths and science or arts in another school. And then you've got also your sports schools that parents are also vying for. So we certainly do see an issue with parents rejecting places, an offer of placement at other schools that we do offer them, because they are still wanting to get into their schools of choice. Now, we do see a bit of movement in this next few, 10 days with schools realizing that learners that have applied, have accepted, are not arriving, and that can have some shift in those schools of choice. But many of them have already confirmed that kind of commitment.
What we've also seen over the time is that, according to some numbers, the Western Cape has a very large number of people moving into that province. That's not in dispute. But in fact, more people are moving into Cape Town now, probably, than moving into Joburg. I mean, it's a huge change to 100 years of history. Are you building new schools to accommodate those learners? And it's quite tricky. I know in some areas in the past, this happens in other provinces too, you have to close down schools because there aren't enough learners in that area. People move. Are you able to keep pace with the number of people coming into your province?
Yeah, it's been daunting. We've got about, just from the Eastern Cape alone, 13,000 new learners on average over the past few years. That requires 13 new additional schools every year. We've got our Rapid School Build program, which we got an injection of money from the National Treasury because of the success rate of that program. This year we had built onto 9 existing schools, as well as we built onto 2 new schools for the opening on Wednesday. We've got further schools that are underway, and we have built additional 175 classrooms at schools through that program. So that will assist us in terms of accommodating learners. And that program will continue this year with, we've got a projection of about 29 schools for a 3-year period. So we really are trying to increase the pace in terms of building of schools. But yeah, it certainly is a pressure point in Cape Town. There's no doubt about it. There's some areas where there simply isn't any land to build on. Even if we could just plonk a school in that area, we can't do so. There's just no land available. And so that's some of the areas that we are concerned about. And then we have to make alternative arrangements in terms of transportation to other schools. But that's just the reality of Cape Town at this moment.
Bronagh Hammond, thank you very much indeed, spokesperson for the Western Cape Education Department.